I'll share with us here this morning and what God did through her and her team this week. But you know, all these past couple of weeks we've been praying for Cassie and that team. Don't quit praying, amen. Don't quit praying for Cassie and the team, but don't quit praying for those folks over there, amen. There'll be continued. Cassie's mission team won't be the only mission team that goes over there. There'll continue to be missionaries, not just there, but all over the world, amen. And we need to make an effort that we continue to pray for those teams and those people that go all over the world to share the gospel. So I'm going to get out of the way. Sister Cassie, we are so proud of you, and just knowing that you are a part of the Sand Hill Baptist Church family and that God sent you where He sent you and used you the way He used you. We are extremely proud of you. As your pastor, I'm extremely proud of you. This congregation is extremely proud of you. And y'all be sure to let Sister Cassie know how proud we are of her and her efforts of hearing God's call, being obedience to God's call, and going. Amen. Sister Cassie, you come.
Okay, so is it on? First of all, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over day by day what I did there, so y'all just have an idea of what we actually did. Because every day was a little bit different. We did some things more than others. But as soon as this is working, I can start. But I wanted to tell y'all that y'all's praying really did work. So we had a team of 8. And while we were there, we spoke to 1,098 people, and 438 people got saved while we were there.
Amen. Praise the Lord.
So there was one day we went to a school. I'll talk about it a little bit, but there was over 500 students there. In just one classroom, over 80 got saved. So it's just it was a really awesome trip. Okay, so the first day we arrived at the Village of Eden. If I call it VOE, it's the Village of Eden. We arrived around 1:30, and then we literally walked. Like, this compound is over 55, I think it's 55 acres. And we walked to the complete other side of their clinic, and we just got to see everything that they had there. They have a school, a clinic, a church, a prayer garden. They have like it's not separate, but there's a fence in between it where the missionaries stay and stuff like that. And they also have buildings for the residents. There's 44 kids there that aren't necessarily orphans. There's 2 or 3 of them that are orphans, but a lot of them are for medical reasons and just safety reasons. Okay, next one. So the next day we did hut to hut, but we woke up in the morning, and every morning somebody was assigned to do devotion. So we started out the day just speak whatever God put on our heart, or a devotion that we read that morning, and we just shared it with everybody. And then Richie was our team leader, and he's a deacon at his church in Gainesville. We're helping him started. But anyways, Richie and Josh is my college pastor. They gave us like a gospel orientation, how to share the gospel, just gave us tips. And the crazy thing is that we wrote down notes, and we were like, this is what we're going to say, this is how we're going to say it. But when you get in that environment, you don't even look at your notes. So that's one of those like faith things that you just have to trust God that He'll give you the words to say, and He did. I think 438 people got saved, so I guess it worked. So after we did the orientation, we went hut to hut, and this is literally what every house looks like. It's actually probably a really nice one. So it's a grass roof, and the walls are made out of mud. It's like grass and mud mixed together, and they plaster it. And all their floors are dirt, nothing fancy. But we would go to their houses, and it's crazy because over there they're so hospitable. So you would walk up, and they would not let you sit on the ground. So they had to go get chairs for you. And one day, it was one of the missionaries there, she tried to sit down, and they were like, Mama, no, don't sit down. So they're super hospitable, and their sign of respect to you is they'll get on the ground and they'll kneel and shake your hand, and they're just so honored for you to be there at their house. And it's not because you're white, or they're like that with everybody. So if you come to their house, they're going to welcome you, and they're going to sit and listen to whatever you have to talk about. So even if they were Muslim or Jehovah's Witness or whatever they were there, they were ready to hear what you had to say, no matter who you are, what it was. Next. And then that, I don't have to change it. It was really cool because our first night there, all the missionaries, and there's about 7 or 8 missionaries that stay there permanently. we had a cell group, so we had a Bible study with all the missionaries, and every night we would sit together as a group. It may not have been with the other missionaries, but we would sit together as a group and say our stretch and our blessings. So our stretch was what made us grow in our faith and what we struggled with that day. And our blessing was just something that happened that just like touched your heart or something like that. The next day, we did like a big thing at Helping Hands is medical missions. So we went to this bush area and we popped up a clinic there. So this right here up top was where registration was, and there was a big circle, and they would come over to where the clothes were. And it was just crazy. The main things they test for there are malaria and HIV, and it's just, I had, at this area was the last station that they had, and you just got to see all the papers and how many people had malaria and were struggling with this and struggling with that. And it was just very humbling because we don't have to go in the middle of nowhere to go to the clinic and walk. We served, I think it was 400 people, and we had to turn people away. Because if we would have had more than that, then we would have stayed there all day long. Like, so we got there at 7 and didn't leave until 5 o'clock. So we would have been there until it was dark outside if we would have let more people come. So it was sad. They would sit outside this tent waiting for it to get over just so we could hand them things. And luckily we had extra mosquito nets, but we didn't have any clothes left to be able to give them. And that day, I think my stretch was mainly just exhaustion. So we had translators with us, and it's cool because I think it was easier to share the gospel with the translator because you talk and then they talk, and it gives you a minute to think about what you're going to say and process things. So it was a really awesome experience. My translator name was John, and the day before that, when we went hut to hut, we were in groups of like 3 or 4. So you had people to like bounce off of if you like froze or something like that. And we only watched Josh do it once. He was like, "Hey Cassie, you're doing it," and I was like, "Okay." So, but really, it wasn't bad. Like I said before, you just have to have faith that God's going to give you the words to say, and He does. Right. So it was a few huts, and nobody had received Christ and stuff like that. But I'd seen other people do it and receive Christ, so it can be discouraging. But this day, they sent us out completely alone with our translator. It was just us and the translator, and we would just walk from tent to tent, just telling groups and stuff like that. And I went over to the tent. They had 2 little camping tents with doctors in it. And we were just talking to the group, whatever. And me and John, my translator, we were just letting them have it. We were like, "Jesus loves you," like this and that, whatever. And we were like, "Well, if you want to receive Christ, raise your hand." And only like 2 people raised their hand. I was like, "Dang, like, man, there should be more people than that." And then we were like, "Okay, well, we're going to pray, and then you repeat after me." And then the whole group started repeating after me. So it's easy to get discouraged when you're out there, but God really does bless us. And that was definitely my blessing of the day while I was there. But we had been doing that for like 3 hours, and we didn't have our water bottles with us because they were just so heavy and you didn't want to walk around with it. So I finally sat down for lunch, and like I was exhausted. And it had only been like 4 hours, but you just don't know because you're so distracted by what you're doing anyway. You just don't, and God just doesn't even let you think about it. Like you're so focused on sharing the gospel until you sit down and you're like, "Man, like I need some water." So I sat there for like an hour just drinking water. What else? Okay, you can go to the next one, Mama. Okay, so this was this is probably one of my favorite days while we were there. This was the 4th day that we were actually in Uganda. And this is a school, so it was just one strip, and each door had a classroom. And that day we did bracelets, we talked about Noah, and then we had one group share the gospel. So we would just rotate between the classrooms, and they do it, I don't know what the program's called, but they go to different schools in the area, and they first do this, which is they share the gospel, stuff like that, teach them about a Bible story, and do some fun stuff that like bracelets and crafts and stuff like that. The second one is Mufa Kufa games, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And the third one is purity talks. So we also had to do that. That was a stretch one day, but it worked out well. But this day was our first time coming to this school, and it was really awesome. So it was me and 2 other girls, and Jeffrey was our translator. And I thought Simon Says was just like something that we did in our country. But Jeffrey did it in his language, and it was the funniest thing. Like, the kids were laughing, we were laughing, we got to do bracelets. We were in charge of that, and what was one more thing? Oh, I taught them how to do the Father Abraham song, where you're like, right, or they thought that was hilarious. They didn't know what they were singing, but they were laughing at us. So that was awesome. And then after that, we went to hut and then to a bush church. So a bush church is literally in the middle of nowhere. It was probably smaller than our bathroom. Maybe like 2 times the bathrooms back there. Like, it was a small little area that we were sitting in, wooden pews and stuff like that. So we went hut to hut and invite people beforehand. And I think my stretch that day was the language barrier, because they struggled saying my name. And they thought it was funny, so they would laugh. But I had no clue what they were laughing about, because I couldn't understand what they were saying. So I was just getting frustrated. And I'm like, it's just my name. Like, I was funny about it. But I found out, I think there's a song, like some African song that has my name in it, so that might go out. Also, while we were inviting people, we ran into this old lady. We went to her house, and she was shucking corn with her hands and stuff like that. And I was like, my name's Cassidy, I'm from America. And she's like, oh, I want to go to America. And this was through a translator and stuff like that. And she was like, my name's Alice. And I was like, okay. My grandma's name is Alice. And she's like, well, you can bring me back to America since my name is Alice. So I thought that was funny. And then there was only a few times that I was a little nervous while I was there. And it was the same day we went to a hut where there were some teenage boys, and we talked to the dad, and we had already invited him. We walked off, and he was like, we're not going to come to church, but we want the girl, talking about me. And you never want to encourage any of that kind of stuff, because they can really like take it and run with it. But we just kind of laughed it off and walked off. But it's crazy, because that's how things really work over there. So if they want somebody, they can literally just take them. So that was only like sketchy thing that happened while I was there. You can go next. Okay, so this was a picture from the Bush Church. So that was like from that point to where the end of the kids are, that was like half of the church. So it was really small, and all the kids sat up front. And it was really cool, because the only 2 people that got saved at this church were the 2 boys sitting on the end right here. And it was just cool to see, because they kind of talked about childlike faith after that. So it was really awesome, and you could really feel like Jesus in the air. You feel him in the room. And it's crazy, and I'll talk about it a little bit, but just like hearing them sing, and they're so happy to sing about Jesus and just worship, and like you can feel it, like chills just hearing them in this little hut just praising Jesus. It's a really awesome experience. So the next day was Esingala, which is basically Helping Hands cooks food for over 1,000 kids, and they walk miles to come get this one meal, which is called pocho and rice and beans, and I'll explain pocho in a minute. But first they come in here and they worship for at least 30 minutes, 45 minutes sometimes, and this room had over 1,000 kids in it, just singing. I didn't know what they were singing, but we were just dancing and having a good time. And then after that, they went to their Bible studies, and then they came and got food. So while they were at their Bible studies, we were learning how to make pocho, which I was trying to explain to Mr. Richard. It tastes like really bland grits, but it looks like mashed potatoes. So they have 8 of these big pots boiling this pocho, and then 2 big pots of beans. And it's kind of sad after we found out why they feed them pocho. So they get all the nutrients from the rice and beans, but from the pocho, I guess it's corn based. It fills their stomach up. It doesn't have any nutrients in it, but it makes them feel full. So it was kind of sad when I found that out. I was like, But that was a really awesome day. That stuff is so heavy. So they had like a boat or whatever, and they like push it down and pull it up, and they flip it. And I couldn't do it. That was me trying as hard as I could, and it just wasn't happening. And then after that, they get in these really long lines, and you'll see pictures later. And you help. We were servers, so we got these plates. I mean, these. There was one girl, I felt so bad. She was holding a plate of beans, and the juice spilled on her, and she just started crying. So I like grabbed her plate and I had to like wipe her arm off. I just felt so bad because this is her only meal and she's in pain. There's just all this kind of stuff. And it was really rewarding to be able to hand these kids their only meal that they're going to get that day. So it was awesome. And then after that, we went hut to hut, and this was kind of cool because Richie, you can have a sponsor child through Helping Hands, and we went with Richie's sponsor child, which his name was Wafula. And we were really confused because Richie was like, we need to go this way to go to your house. He was like, no, we've got a shortcut this way. So we go and we visit his aunt, which isn't, wait, we went and go visit his aunt. And then we're there for like 30 minutes. We go over, we go visit his grandma. We go visit his grandma. And then we go visit his grandma that he lives with, but it's not really his, it's just this big confusing thing. But Richie was getting so frustrated. He was like, I need to go see your grandma, like we need to get you these mosquito nets, all this kind of stuff. And then it like hit him that Wafula just wanted to show Richie off to all of his family. Like he wanted Richie to know who his family was and stuff like that. He just wanted Richie to meet everybody. And then Richie, I mean, he said that was his stretch in his lesson for the day, because first of all, it was his stretch, and then he's realized, like, he just has such a big heart, and he wants me to meet everybody. So we didn't go inside because it wasn't our sponsor or anything. In the huts, it's really small. So we got to just hang out with all the other kids that were following us. We had like a group of 30 kids because, I mean, their parents were watching them, but they could just go run off wherever they want. So these kids followed us for probably an hour just walking over the road and holding our hands and stuff like that. Next one. So this was Sunday, and this will tie into what I have to talk about later. This is actually the last one. But this was a really awesome experience. So everybody that's at church is just so happy to be there. And you walk into the door, and there's this greeter. And if you had a baby, she'd pick up your baby and she'd walk all the way to your seat and then hand you your baby. And then she'd go back to the door and she'd do it for everybody. And she stayed in the back during church. And Josh, my college pastor, he was the one that was preaching. And every time he'd say something good, she would just yell in the back. And she was just happy to be there. She was just running up and down the aisles. And just when we were like singing and stuff, like we were all standing up and dancing and stuff like that. And you can turn off the screen off. Like, no, you're on. Yep. Okay, can you go to the next one? Okay, so these are the Moofa Poofa games that I was talking about. So this is the second stage of their program that they do with schools. And there was a few different games. This one was a tunnel game. It was just a piece of stretchy fabric. You step at the bottom and you pull it up. And at each end, there's kids coming at each other. So they'll like bonk their heads and they try to like get around. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And they're so tiny, so they're just going real quick. And they made us demonstrate, so me and a girl named Rachel that went with us, we had to demonstrate, and it was pretty fun. I liked it. And then the second one was, it was like skis. So there were wooden skis, and you had 6 people on these skis with you, and you had these ropes you had to hold to, and you just like go here and here. And it was a race. It was like our team was struggling. We could not do it. And then the last one was kind of like tug of war. It's this big black inner tube, and you hug the inner tube. And then you hug the person, and it's just like a chain of people. And obviously we had to demonstrate first, and it was just the girls, but there's a picture in my slideshow that I'll show afterwards where we are just pulling on each other. And it's hilarious because one person will break and then the other side falls, and it's way better than regular tug. And that was really cool. And before we actually did these Moofa games, we got to share the gospel. And there's 7 grades, so 7 of us each had to go in a room by ourselves. So Richie said he was very proud of us at that point, because beforehand, when he would say, oh, you're doing this by yourself, we'd all be like really big eyes, like, are you serious? Like, are you really doing this? And then that day we were like, okay, it's kind of what we expected. Because the first hut to hut, I watched Josh do it once. He was like, you do it. And I was terrified. I was like, this isn't gonna work. Like, I won't be near as good as you, but I think God uses everybody in his own way, and I don't have to be a preacher or this wonderful speaker to be able to share the gospel with people. Okay, next one. Okay, so some of the stuff, okay, one thing I missed, and I do want to talk about is I did a girls' disciple group, and Richie had already predetermined who was going to be speaking at it. It was me. And one verse that really speaks to me, and it has for a really long time, is Exodus 14:14. But I backed it up a little bit for them to understand exactly what was going on. And what was going on is the Israelites were running away from Pharaoh. And they were scared and they were questioning God and stuff like that. But I'll read it to you real quick. So, as Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone, let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert." Moses answered the people, "Don't be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you'll never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only be still." So with that, I talked about like how they were questioning God and how sometimes the world seems easier than following God. And I think we all struggle with that too sometimes. And I just preach to them like no matter what they're going through, because there's some scary stuff that they're going through. They just have to stand firm in God and have faith that He will deliver them from whatever they're going through. And the Lord will always fight for them. They just need to be still. So there's a lot of scary situations, and this kind of tied into the purity talks that we did here, because we had to talk about abuse and stuff like that as well. And sometimes once they find out that girls have started puberty, they'll get kidnapped or stuff like that. They'll get raped and stuff like that. So it's just a really scary situation to be in. And it's hard because we preach to them to like wait until you're married and stuff like that. But sometimes it's not their choice whether or not they wait or not. So I just preached to them about that. And then that night we got to have a missionary dinner. There was a Kenyan family that lived across the street, and they cooked this whole dinner for us, which was really, really cool. They taught me for Kuka games. And then we went to a different school to do these purity talks. And at the beginning, we shared the gospel with the boys and the girls, and then we separated them. And Josh and Richie, this is Richie, he was our team leader. They went with the boys, talked about all their stuff. We stayed with the girls, talked about all their stuff. And it was just a really cool opportunity. You could see a lot of the pain in the girls' faces and fear. And it was a very humbling thing to see. And then one more. The last day we got to go to Jinja, which is probably the closest big city near where we were at. It's about 2 hours away. And it's big because it's a big trade area, so it's the source of the Nile. So it's the southern part of the Nile. And we got to go shopping there and stuff. We got to eat pizza. We have been eating rice and beans for a week. So pizza was awesome. And so we got to do lunch and shopping and stuff like that. Okay, you can put it on. So there's a few things that God really stuck things out to me while I was there. And just seeing them worship and see how seriously they take the gospel and how amazing the gospel is to them. Like, they are just in awe of what Jesus did. And it really, Josh had to tell us, he's like, don't go back to the U.S. mad at the American church. Because you will be. Because you're in this church that just wants to praise Jesus as much as they can. And they sing for an hour. And they preach for 30 minutes sometimes. And it's awesome. It's an amazing thing to see. And like, as long as Brother Trent preaches, that's as long as they sing. And they are just like standing up, raising their hands, just dancing, just not ashamed at all of what God's done with them. And it really bothered me because sometimes I struggle to stand up and raise my hands. And I think it's because we don't take worship nearly as seriously as they do. And we're afraid to share the gospel and stand up because we're afraid of what people are going to think about us. And sometimes, and I know kids struggle with this, and I did until I left for Uganda, was praying out loud, like we're scared we're going to say something wrong. But for all those people that you feel are going to judge you and stuff like that, it's James 4:11. It says, "Brothers and sisters, do not slander one another. Anyone who speaks against the brother or sister judges him, speaks against the law and judges it. When you judge the law, you are not keeping it, but sitting in judgment on it. There's only one lawgiver and judge, the only one who is able to save and destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbor?" That's right. So it doesn't matter what other people think of you. Like, stand up, dance, do whatever you want, run down the aisles. Like, nobody cares. I mean, the only person that cares is God. That's right. So we shouldn't be ashamed, and like that's something I've got to work on. And before I like go on, like I don't want to stand up here and y'all think I'm perfect, or that y'all think that I think I'm better than y'all, because I'm not. Because before I came, after I got there, I had to reflect on myself, because a lot of the stuff that I struggle with too. And a lot of people are scared to go on missions because they're scared that they're scared they don't know what to say, or that they're not a good speaker and stuff like that. But like I said earlier, you just have to have faith that God will give you the words to say. And one of the awesome things that happened while we were there, it was like the second or third day we were going hut to hut. And Richie, I think is the very last video that's on my video we're going to show. And Richie's just sharing the gospel with somebody, and we're sitting there on the side, and it's like, I know everybody gets chills and stuff when they feel like the Holy Spirit, but in the Bible it says that heaven rejoices when one soul is saved. Yes. And it was an awesome feeling to be able to actually feel that. Like, I felt like heaven was rejoicing inside of me. Like, you're overwhelmed with joy. We become so numb to the gospel here, and like people getting saved, that we're like, oh, I think you're part of the family now, we're brother and sister. Like, it's more than that. Like, you should be ecstatic. You should be like running out of your seat trying to go tell people about God. And
Amen.
Okay, so, but that was really awesome, because we were just sitting there and you can't help but smile. Like, it's just crazy. Like, you're going to see these people one day, and one thing we kept saying is, when we get to heaven, we're not going to see the color on our skin, and we're going to be able to understand each other. We're not going to need this translator. And it was just an awesome thing to see that. And like I said, us just being, they were so in awe of what Jesus had done, and it just makes me sad that we're not. And I mean, when we come to church, we are, and when stuff like that, but like, we're not so in awe of it that we want to go tell everybody about it. Right. And that leads me to my next point. Well, I'm going to read Romans 10:14 first. How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? How can they believe in one whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can they preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. So it is our job. Nobody's going to be able to go to heaven if somebody doesn't tell them. Like, they're not going to know about Jesus if nobody tells them. So it's our job as Christians to tell those people. Like, that is the Great Commission, and I'll get that in a minute. Next, I want to read Isaiah 6:8, and it says, and I've read this before, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, who shall I send, and who will go for us? And I said, here I am, send me." And I feel like we should all live with that mentality, whether it be going to Africa or going to our neighbor's house. Like, we should always be like, God, send me. Like, I don't care where it is, but you should be willing to go. And you should be really willing to receive God's call at all times. And when He calls us to go, we should be willing to go. And for me, I think a big issue with people not going on mission trips is they have all these excuses. Like, I'm too busy. I have kids. There was a girl named Rachel that went with us, and she had 2 kids, and that is almost the thing that stopped her from going. But God just put his hands on her kids, and like, she was worried about her youngest because he cries at night for her, and he didn't cry but once while she was gone. So, I mean, there's no excuses for not going on a mission trip, whether that be to Boston or to Mexico, to Uganda, or somewhere in the United States. There's no excuses. And one funny story that is at Northside in Valdosta where I go, this lady named Helen Clark, she's this short lady, she got curly hair. She might be shorter than me, but she was 82, and God called her to go to Africa, so she did. And I was just amazed. She's in her 90s now, but I was just like, dang. Like, if she can do it, you can do it. So there's really no valid excuses if an 82-year-old woman can go to Africa. And then one thing that, and I was talking to Mom on the phone about this, and it just, being there, it just fired me up. And I was just ranting to Mom about it, but we weren't called to sit in our pews. These pews are super comfy. I've sat in these pews for years. It's nice just sitting back, and it's nice sitting on our couches, but we were called to go, and we were called to tell people. We weren't called to just sit in our pews and sing and listen to the preacher preach. Like, we're supposed to do that, but there's so much more that we're supposed to do.
Right.
That's not even part of the Great Commission. The Great Commission is to go, and I'm going to read that. Matthew 28:16 through 20. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I'm with you always, to the very end of the age." So, and God was with me on this trip. Like, I could tell, because none of the stuff that I did, I could have done before I went. So, I mean, I probably could have, but like, he really touched me while I was there to be able to do what I was supposed to do. And Africa is a bold choice. Like, there's so many things that you can do. Like, if God puts somebody on your heart, go and tell them. And this is something I struggle with too, because I don't like just going and talking to people. But that's what we're supposed to do. Like, the gospel should be, we should just be in awe and want everybody to receive that. When I was there, I wanted everybody to know. Like, it made me sad when we left a hut or something and nobody received Christ. And it was an awesome thing to see. We went to one family, one hut, and before we got there, the translator was like, "I don't know if you want to go here." And Richie was like, "What?" And he was like, they do sacrifices here and stuff like that. So we really didn't know what they believed in. But the translator was like, "I don't know if you want to go." Richie, so we kept walking, and we had this whole family sitting down in front of us, and then the grandma walked up. And Richie is one of those really bold people, and he'll call you out. And anyways, we were sitting there, and he was just preaching to the family. The old lady comes back and sits down, and he gets done preaching the gospel. He's like, if anybody wants to receive Christ, I want to pray with you. And the old lady was like, I don't want to pray, but will you pray for me for like whatever? And he was like, me praying for you isn't going to get you in heaven. So but they went back and forth for a minute. And Richie was not letting go, and finally that whole family received Christ. Like, we don't know what was going on there beforehand, but it was a really awesome thing to see. And one thing that like you really don't see here, but I saw there was like you could see an instant change in some of those people after they prayed, and it was just a really cool thing to see. And let's not be called in our pews. Like the question I've had to ask myself, and the question like I want you to like examine within yourself is: are you going to choose to obey? God's calling you every single day to talk to somebody, whether you know it or not. And are you going to choose to obey whoever you come in contact with and tell them about Jesus? And if you follow God's calling and have faith, like He's going to provide the rest. Like I was worried that I wasn't having money, and I had an abundance of money to be able to go. And Rachel was worried about her kids, and God provided all that. There was nothing for her to worry about. And all these excuses, if you have excuses, God's going to get rid of them. Like I thought money was an issue, it wasn't an issue. Like if it's your calling to go, He's going to provide the rest. So that's kind of my story and everything that happened during my trip. And I pray that y'all don't sit in these pews anymore and go and tell people, because and it makes me sad because going on this trip, I really experienced the feeling of being a part of somebody being able to go to heaven. And it makes me sad that not everybody in this room may be able to feel that feeling. So don't be numb to the gospel. It's an amazing thing to share. And I'm telling you, you'll get fired up when somebody receives Christ and you have something to do with it. So I want to thank y'all for everything that y'all have contributed to this trip. And I don't think my calling is long-term missions, like going to be a missionary overseas, but I think I do have a heart for going wherever I can, wherever God sends me. And I think God has like different plans for me right now, but I know He's going to give me the opportunity to do this again.
Amen.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.